Central Bank Governor Ajith Nivard Cabraal yesterday called on the banking sector to be agile in order to stay the course and fuel confidence and economic stability to steer through the challenging times. Emphasizing that agility is a key ingredient in times of turmoil, he outlined 6 focus areas that the banking sector should ponder on to overcome the headwinds. These include thinking out of the box, taking bold decisions, erring on the side of caution, regular communication, following up on plans, and equipping with necessary skill sets. Bankers need to be agile in times of challenge. In that context, these challenges we are facing today must be considered very seriously, as these are not only local, but forthcoming globally, which needs to be dealt with, Cabraal said at the 32nd anniversary convention titled, Sprinting Ahead with Agility of the Association of Professional Bankers yesterday.
It's a bit of a homecoming for me, but at the same time, I've been used to rough weather, like what you have been talking about all these days, I think this morning as well. And it's good to be back again with the professionals who know what it is about to steer through difficult waters. Mr. President Rajapaksa, President when you say is normally Rajapaksa, Deputy Governors, and the other officials of the Association of Professional Bankers, my dear friends. I think you have been deliberating this morning on a topic, sprinting ahead with agility, and I thought my remarks today, I would touch on a few of these points with regard to the agility that you need to embrace at a moment like this. What really is agility? It's always useful to ponder on that, because we do have to be agile in times of challenges. And in that sense, the challenges that we are facing today are certainly those that we must consider very seriously, because these are not only local challenges, but globally also these challenges have been forthcoming and we got to deal with it. So I thought I'll share with you a few thoughts that crossed my mind and try and put in perspective what bankers particularly should do at a time when we have to be agile in order to stay afloat as well as go forward. I think one of the key ingredients of agility is that we need to think out of the box. When you face a challenge, it's likely that the normal options that you have been used to and used to working with have not been successful enough. Some new conditions may have emerged, some new threats may have emerged, which forces you to be a lot more likely that you will have to think out of the box. So my first point that I would like to stress to you is that in times such as these, you got to depart from the norms that you are used to and look at certain options that you did not consider or had not even known about in the past. Second, I think your theme itself talks about sprinting. You got to move fast. You can't dilly-dally. There may be certain steps that you can take in good times that you can wait for some time to ponder and decide over a long period of time. But in times of challenge, you got to think very quickly and deal with it. I remember once I was on a flight with Aravind De Silva, and he was seated about 3 seats next to mine. And there was a gentleman who came and sat next to him and was very agitatedly speaking to him. Spoke for about 10 minutes and then he left. And then Aravinda came towards me and I asked him, what was this chap talking to you so animatedly about? He said, no, what he was telling me is that in our match against Pakistan, that I had hit the wrong shot and that's why I got out to Wasim Akram. So I said, what happened? So he says, I have quarter of a minute to decide what shot to play. So this guy can sit in front of the television and decide what shot I should play 3 weeks after. So he has all the time in the world to decide the shot that I should play, but I just have quarter of a second or maybe half a second to decide which one, and sometimes you err, but I had to move very fast. Sometimes you have to move fast. So if you have to move fast, because if you don't hit a shot, you can get out for not hitting a shot as well. I see several cricketers in front of me. Mr. Jonathan Allis, whom I know is a renowned cricketer in his school days, and they will know the truth of that statement. Move fast. Sometimes in times of crisis, be bold. You can't be hiding behind some facade. You'll have to take some bold steps as well. And that's important. As bankers, you'll have to take some bold steps and to move forward so that you instill confidence in your fellow workers as well as in the markets, your borrowers, your creditors, your other stakeholders. You've got to ensure that you are able to provide that confidence, because banking is all about confidence. That is the thread on which the whole system of banking rests. Otherwise, it won't be successful. We talk about contagion effect. If you do have a crisis in one bank, it can move to the others. If there is a challenge that one bank is facing or a financial institution is facing, that unless it is addressed, it can move very quickly to the rest of the industry as well. So that is why it is sometimes necessary to take bold decisions and take it fast. And another aspect of this crisis management, as it were, that I learned on the job, is if you're erring on the side of more than less. Take more steps than you feel deals with the problem. Sometimes you may have several irons in the fire, but it's useful to do that. Agility means having several steps being taken at the same time, simultaneously. So that's perhaps another aspect of management that you might want to use, especially in times that you find are challenging. Do more than what really is necessary sometimes. If you do more, that may be sufficient. If you do less, that may not be sufficient. So, if you have to, on the side of doing more than less. Next is to communicate regularly. I believe it is necessary to continue to engage with your stakeholders. Continue to explain what you are doing. Continue to talk about the steps that are needed to go forward. Because if you do that, you would find that more and more people will relate to what you believe in and what your strategy is. I'll give you another example. I remember there was some concern that Sri Lanka would not be able to make payment in the international sovereign bond that was due today. And there was a time when there was a lot of confusion as well as discussion that Sri Lanka won't be able to pay, that we won't have enough reserves, and that there would be a serious destruction of the entire financial system. What happened? There were people who came out openly and said, all these terrible things will happen to the country and the banking system would collapse on the 18th of January 2022. I didn't know that you were fixing this date on this very auspicious day. Perhaps we shouldn't have been here if that is the case. But nevertheless, we steered through that period. We developed our reserves, and then came the situation where we allocated the money from the central bank towards the prepayment, and then we announced, and that is where the communication comes to the fore, announced that this would be settled. Immediately, you would have seen that the bond markets, to some extent, subsided. Our bonds, which were trading for January 22, came to almost par, and that was the message that had percolated down to the entire system as a result of that communication. Of course, it did hurt some people who were expecting D-Day or Doomsday to occur. And in fact, I still remember I cut it out and kept that the day Sri Lanka will go bankrupt is the 18th of January 2022. Fortunately, we are all here and having a conference about sprinting ahead. Maybe if that didn't happen in the right way, as what had happened today, we would have been buried ourselves, and that wouldn't have been a nice thing to have happened. Anyway, what it means is communicate the story and communicate what you're doing, because I think it's necessary for all bankers as well to give an indication, and I know some of you do that very well, to the markets as well as to the country at large about your own stability as well as your own growth plans. Next point that I would like to just stress upon is you got to follow up intensely. Nothing happens unless you follow up. You got to ensure, if you're agile, you'll have to continuously see that the plans that you have put together are being implemented and implemented in the manner that would give the best results. And certainly don't get discouraged by detractors and doomsdayers. You would find plenty of them. Many people will come and say how and why something cannot be done. I always think that fortunately there weren't so many people in the olden days. Otherwise, most probably, Sigiriya may not have been built. King Kashyapa would have been told, you can never do this. Fortunately, he wouldn't have listened. And then it got done, and we are now reaping those benefits. Mainly because there will be people who will come and say no. And if you are wanting to be agile and to move forward, you will have to be conscious that you will have to move forward on those lines. I also remember, if you are executing plans, that it is vital that you have timelines and you ensure that those deliveries are done. And sometimes I'm puzzled as to why some people have to communicate too much as well. I remember there were days during the times of the war that there may have been certain gaps in our ordering of weapons or ammunition, but nobody came and said daily how much weapons we have, how long it will last, and when you don't have, nobody came out and said we don't have something or the other. So it's useful to put your house in order and to ensure that whatever that is not available is done, instead of communicating those kinds of messages to the rest of the world, because it can otherwise provide some additional and unnecessary burdens to the markets as well. So my dear friends, going forward, sprinting with agility needs several skills. It needs teamwork. As it was mentioned by the person who is the master of ceremonies, it says it has to be a journey together. Bankers themselves are a fraternity which has to work together. Not only are you responsible for your shareholders, you are responsible to your stakeholders, who are the people of this country, who are the people of the world. And in that sense, you are to a great extent responsible to a large segment of people who can sometimes be your stakeholders without you even knowing it. So that's why you have a responsibility to all of them, and equipping yourselves with the skills that you need to take the industry forward, particularly in times of challenges, is vital. Not only equipping yourselves with the skills, but also developing the skill set that you need to deal with difficult conditions is also necessary. You have to have the patience, you have to have the courage, you have to have the ability to deal with situations. And I think all of you who are holding high positions in the banking sector will be exposed to those challenges, and therefore you need to develop the skills to deal with that situation. So that's why I particularly welcome the Association of Professional Bankers who have taken the steps to equip their membership with these skills, with this knowledge, and I do hope that you have had a wonderful session this morning. Going forward, I'm also sure that these challenges, although may not be as severe as what we have experienced, will still be there. The world is not going to have a complete change in the way it will do business in the next few months, or perhaps even the next 1 year. So we got to have a balance of the way we would approach our work. We'll have to be thinking of stability first than anything else. Bankers especially need to focus on stability. And whilst focusing on stability, you need to have growth as well. It's the same for the country. Countries also have to be conscious of stability, and with stability to be promoting growth. And if we can go on that journey together, I'm sure Sri Lanka would be a better place, and Sri Lanka would be able to steer through these troubled waters that we are currently experiencing, as well as the headwinds that we are currently experiencing. In every journey, every step is important. Every day, we will have to ensure that we take the necessary steps to steer through with clarity as well as with confidence. So that's the message that I would like to leave with you. I want to congratulate all the office bearers of the Association of Professional Bankers, as well as those who have been before you. There have been many eminent persons whom I have known personally over the last so many years, who have molded this organization and ensured that you are able to go forward with clarity and to go forward with confidence. And I do hope that you would continue to provide that leadership to the bankers of our country, who are an essential breed and a breed who will be delivering a lot of success to our country. And I do hope that all of you will live up to that, and I look forward to working with you as we go on this journey together. Thank you very much.
For more latest news, subscribe to FTTV.